Mistress convinced Billionaire to cancel pregnant wife's credit cards. She walked out with nothing. They were the picture-perfect couple, Mark Bensington, a charismatic millionaire famed for his business empire, and Jade Rutherford, his devoted wife, who was expecting their first child. Their marriage was said to be born of fairy tale romance, set against the backdrop of lavish galas, glittering chandeliers, and whispered promises of an everlasting future. Yet, beneath the gilded veneer of perfection, lay a dark secret threatening to unravel everything. Enter Ashley Carmichael, the captivating and ambitious mistress determined to claim Mark for herself. In a single shocking move, Ashley convinced Mark to cancel his pregnant wife's credit cards, leaving Jade in tatters, alone and with absolutely nothing. Mark Bensington stood at the edge of the grand ballroom in his newly acquired mansion, gazing out at the sea of wealthy socialites. He was not just a millionaire, he was a man known for his bold business moves and opulent lifestyle. His lean frame, dressed in a crisp, tailored suit, exuded confidence. The Bensington name commanded respect at every elegant gathering, and that evening's charity gala was no exception. By his side was his wife, Jade Rutherford. Petite, with gentle brown eyes and a radiant smile, Jade glowed. While some believed her quietness made her seem demure, those who knew her well understood that she was intelligent, compassionate, and fierce when it mattered. That night, Jade was pregnant with their first child, a child that represented hope, a bright future, and a reason for Mark to ease up on his notoriously cutthroat business practices. For Jade, it was a dream come true, the start of a beautiful family. Guests streamed into the ballroom. They included names recognized in the upper echelons of society, the Aldertons, who owned real estate across the continent, Christopher Gates, renowned for his philanthropic endeavors, Melissa Huntington, the influential art curator, and many others. Between small talk, clinking champagne glasses, and gossip swirling through the crowd, Jade couldn't help noticing a stunning woman across the room. Her face was new, someone Jade had never seen in their circle. Dressed in a curve-hugging red gown, the woman exuded raw confidence. She seemed to glide through the crowd, drawing approving stares and murmurings of intrigue. "She's gorgeous," Jade remarked softly to Mark, observing that the woman was making her way closer and closer to them. The woman's eyes flickered with something Jade couldn't quite decipher. Mark barely glanced in the stranger's direction and gave a dismissive shrug. Probably another social climber. "These events are crawling with them," he said, before turning his attention to a conversation about a new venture capitalist fund he planned to launch. Jade felt a sudden chill, as though the woman were looking right at her in a challenge. Jade shook off the feeling, telling herself it was only pregnancy hormones amplifying her sense of unease. That woman was Ashley Carmichael, soon to be Mark's mistress, though nobody realized it at the time. Ashley had a single-minded determination to achieve wealth and power. Everything she wore was meticulously planned to dazzle, each slight tilt of her head or flutter of her eyelashes calibrated to enchant. And she had locked her sights on Mark Bensington the moment she recognized his face. In the glow of the chandeliers, as the auctioneer took the stage, Jade placed a hand on her belly. She was vaguely aware that Ashley's gaze had drifted to her. A haunting feeling latched onto Jade's heart. She couldn't articulate it, but from that very moment, a thread of fate began tightening around her marriage, threatening to snip it apart. A week passed after the gala, and Jade was busy dealing with prenatal appointments, her work as a volunteer at a children's shelter, and an increasing sense of excitement as the baby's arrival drew closer. Mark, meanwhile, traveled constantly. He was in and out of the city for deal signings and board meetings. Jade tried her best to keep up with his schedule, though she was aware that these days he was harder to reach. Maybe it was the baby occupying so much of her mind, or perhaps she had grown too complacent in the marriage's familiar comfort. But Jade found herself sometimes brushing off small warning signs, fewer texts from Mark, briefer phone calls, nights he claimed he had to spend in hotels near his new offices. She recalled that red-dressed woman from the gala and remembered the slight worry that had seized her. She pushed it to the back of her mind. Mark had never been the type to cheat, as far as she knew. Indeed, Jade had always believed her love story with Mark was unshakable. They'd faced so many obstacles before: disapproving relatives, Mark's ex who had tried to sabotage their wedding, and even a financial crisis early in his entrepreneurial career. Every time they prevailed. So, Jade told herself, why would this be any different? What she didn't know was that Ashley Carmichael was very much in Mark's orbit. Ashley was a recent hire at a marketing firm contracted by Mark's company. She was exceptionally talented at reading people, knowing precisely how to push their buttons to get exactly what she wanted. Within a few days of the gala, she had orchestrated an accidental run-in with Mark at his favorite lunch spot. Perfectly timed, perfectly acted. When she saw him stroll into the boutique cafe, she timed her exit to knock her coffee cup slightly against his shoulder. Coffee splashed, followed by dramatic apologies from Ashley, and Mark found himself looking into her vividly mesmerizing eyes. Ashley was quick to offer to buy him lunch as an apology, but Mark, feeling flattered and perhaps slightly curious, invited her to join him instead. In that brief meeting, Ashley showed enough spark and wit to intrigue him. She asked thoughtful questions about his new ventures, lavishly praised his philanthropic efforts, and carefully hinted at her admiration for him as a visionary in the business world. Ashley gauged when to laugh at his jokes, when to express admiration, and exactly how often to make subtle physical contact, such as a slight touch of the hand, a playful push on the shoulder in jest, and so on. That single lunch extended into a conversation that could have lasted forever. Ashley exuded a kind of breathy confidence that Jade lacked. If Jade was warm and nurturing, Ashley was fiery and electric. And in a man like Mark, who thrived on excitement and ambition, Ashley found an open doorway. On the second accidental meeting, also not a coincidence, Ashley planted the first seeds of seduction. She offered Mark an enticing proposition. I'm dealing with a client who'd love to collaborate with your new brand expansion. They want to invest heavily, but only if you're on board. Mark was intrigued. This is a big promise, he said, narrowing his eyes with a faint smile. What's in it for you? Ashley tilted her head and parted her lips in a slow smile. We both get something we want. She let the statement hang suggestively in the air before adding, big deals, big money, big power. There's enough to go around if you know how to play. Mark felt a jolt, an energy he hadn't experienced in a while. He had always been driven by success, but something about Ashley's presence felt nearly addictive. They began texting, having late-night business calls that veered into flirtation. Sometimes, Mark tried to quell the guilt he felt about Jade, who waited for him with their unborn child. Yet, each time Ashley's name popped up on his phone, he found it harder to resist the adrenaline rush she provided. Over the following weeks, small lines were crossed, a hand grazed across a shoulder in a private meeting, a shared laugh in the hush of a fancy lounge, an inside joke that excluded everyone else, even Jade. Soon, the line between business partner and confidant blurred until the two locked lips at an industry conference in Chicago. What started as Ashley's strategic plan to rope Mark into her ambitions had blossomed into a physical affair. All this remained hidden from Jade, who was dealing with her own challenges: doctor's appointments, mild complications regarding blood pressure, and the usual anxieties of a first pregnancy. She felt Mark's emotional distance expanding, but each time she tried to address it, Mark brushed her off with something about stressful deals or deadlines. Ashley, meanwhile, ensured her presence in Mark's life grew daily. She was cunning, resourceful, and had no qualms about stepping on Jade's life to elevate her own. The seeds of seduction had been planted. Little did Jade know the greatest betrayal was just beginning. The first person to suspect anything was Jade's close friend, Catherine Porter. Catherine was a headstrong, no-nonsense woman who had known Jade since college. She noticed the subtle changes in Jade's demeanor, the forced smiles, the occasional glazed look in her eyes when Jade talked about Mark's latest business trip. "Everything okay?" Catherine asked one afternoon as they took a leisurely walk through a park, Jade's belly gently swelling under her loose dress. "I'm fine," Jade replied automatically, though Catherine could practically sense the heartbreak simmering beneath the surface. "Jade," Catherine insisted, placing a hand on Jade's arm and drawing her to a stop. "We've been friends for years. You can tell me if something's wrong." Jade exhaled and nodded, tears glimmering. "Mark's so distant. Sometimes at night I see him texting someone. He hides it. It's been months since he's talked about the baby with any real enthusiasm. I don't know. I'm trying not to think the worst." Catherine frowned. "Could it be another woman?" Jade shuddered, shaking her head. "No, I don't think so. Mark can be a workaholic, you know that." But the waver in her voice betrayed her uncertainty. "I can't imagine he'd do that to me. Not now, especially." Catherine studied her friend's trembling gaze. She could see the self-doubt, the fear, the heartbreak that Jade tried to keep at bay for the sake of her own sanity and the health of her unborn child. Catherine's protective instincts roared. She made a mental note to keep an eye on Mark at future social events. As it turned out, Catherine didn't have to wait long. She spotted Mark at a fundraising dinner for an environmental non-profit. Jade was home that night, feeling too fatigued for a late function. Catherine initially spotted Mark speaking with some colleagues in an animated discussion. However, the moment Ashley Carmichael strode in, looking stunning in a shimmering midnight blue gown, Catherine witnessed Mark's entire demeanor shift, an excited flicker in his eyes. She watched him slip away from the main group to have what looked like a very private conversation with Ashley in a quiet corner. Catherine was no fool. She recognized flirting when she saw it. It wasn't simply the way they stood too close, or how Ashley placed her hand lightly on Mark's chest while whispering in his ear. It was the sparkle in Mark's eyes. The same sparkle Jade used to spark. Catherine's stomach sank. Quietly, Catherine excused herself from her own conversation and wandered to a vantage point behind a pillar, determined to learn more. Though she couldn't hear every word, she caught enough phrases. "Cancelled next month's schedule, so we can go to the Bahamas." Jade doesn't know. Catherine froze at the mention of Jade. She witnessed Mark slip his phone out, show Ashley something, and the two of them exchanged a knowing smile before Ashley brushed her lips lightly against his cheek, a surprisingly intimate gesture for a public venue. It took every ounce of restraint for Catherine not to charge in and confront them. But she remembered Jade, pregnant, emotionally fragile, still blissfully hoping her husband would return to the warm man she married. Confronting them in the middle of the event would cause a public scandal. Catherine wanted to protect Jade's feelings and give her friend the chance to decide how to proceed, not have that choice ripped away. That night, Catherine called Jade, who had just finished a plate of pasta and was about to unwind with a movie. Jade's phone rang, and the moment she heard Catherine's shaking voice, her heart lurched with dread. Catherine was gentle but honest. "Jade, I have reason to believe Mark is seeing someone else, Ashley Carmichael, from the gala." Her tone was hushed, filled with sorrow and reluctant confirmation of what Jade already suspected in her heart. When Jade remained silent, Catherine knew her words had struck. Jade had no tears left to cry at that moment, only a hollow feeling. The child inside her stirred, almost as if reacting to the tension that coursed through Jade's body. Jade ended the call with Catherine, numbness creeping into every part of her being. If Catherine's suspicions were correct, Jade's entire world was on the cusp of shattering. Jade waited until midnight for Mark to come home. She sat at the dining table, a single lamp illuminating her sorrowful expression, hands trembling in her lap. When Mark walked in, reeking of cologne that wasn't his own, Jade's stomach clenched in revulsion. "You're up late," Mark remarked, setting his keys on the table. He sounded nonchalant, like he hadn't been canoodling with another woman just hours ago. "Where were you?" Jade asked softly, though her voice trembled with emotion. Mark blinked, feigning nonchalance. "Work dinner. You know, finalizing a few details with the new marketing team." He poured himself a glass of water, carefully not meeting her eyes. Jade inhaled shakily. "I heard you might be spending a lot of time with Ashley Carmichael." Mark's eyes flickered a brief sign of panic, quickly masked by an annoyed frown. "I don't know what rumor you've been listening to, but Ashley's just a business contact. She's helping me with a potential expansion." He paused to take a sip of water. "It's complicated stuff, Jade. I didn't want to worry you while you're pregnant." His dismissive tone struck a nerve. Jade's face clouded with a mix of anger and hurt. "Why do I hear from Catherine that you were whispering in corners with this woman at the fundraiser, planning trips to the Bahamas, referencing my name like I'm an afterthought?" Mark scoffed. "Catherine? That nosy friend of yours has always hated me. She's probably twisting everything around to upset you." Jade rose to her feet, a surge of adrenaline fueling her. "Don't do that," she said, her voice trembling but stronger than before. "Don't belittle my concerns or say it's in my head. I'm your wife, Mark. I deserve honesty." Mark's jaw tightened. He marched over to the living room and flicked on a lamp, as if seeking more space to pace. "Fine. You want honesty?" "Yes, Ashley and I have been working closely. She's bold. She challenges me. She's helping expand my business in ways I never imagined. Is that a crime?" Jade shook her head, tears now brimming. "That's not the problem. I'm worried you're having an affair." Her words hung in the air. Mark turned on her with a sudden fury, a blend of guilt and frustration. "Don't push me, Jade. You're pregnant, you're emotional, you're inventing drama where there might be none." Jade's voice rose, unexpectedly fierce. "Don't you dare blame my pregnancy hormones for what you're doing, Mark. If you're sleeping with her, I'm not discussing this anymore." Mark's tone was final, his expression cold. "I have an early meeting. I can't be dealing with this nonsense. Go to bed." He stomped upstairs, leaving Jade alone, her shoulders trembling, tears streaming freely. Jade sank into a chair. A part of her had held out hope that the rumors were untrue. Confronting Mark only left her with more questions, more fear. The man she married was evading the truth, more concerned about his ego than his wife's peace of mind. She placed a protective hand on her belly, breathing unsteadily. She resolved to seek proof for her own sanity, if nothing else. Meanwhile, Ashley Carmichael took bolder steps. She had an agenda and was determined to push Mark to the brink of leaving Jade entirely. She played a delicate dance, offering Mark unwavering support for his ambitions while also fueling the idea that Jade was no longer compatible with his future. In private dinners over candlelight, Ashley would whisper, "You've outgrown your old life, Mark. You're destined for bigger things, and I see that. I honor that. Let me help you become the man you're truly meant to be." Mark felt intoxicated by her attention. Whether it was lust, ambition, or the thrill of secrecy, he found himself falling deeper under her spell. Ashley probed for every vulnerability. She'd run her fingers through his hair, cooing, "I love seeing you so driven. You deserve a partner who matches your passion for life, Mark." Jade's pregnancy was an inconvenience for Ashley. She recognized that as long as Jade carried his child, a part of Mark might remain emotionally tethered to his wife. Ashley's plan became singular: alienate Jade completely, sever her ties to Mark's resources, and ensure Jade grew more desperate by the day, thus making her look like a burden in Mark's eyes. Ashley started planting doubts. Jade's draining your resources with these constant doctor visits, right? Isn't it expensive? And if she's not supporting your business expansions, what's she really contributing? She'd then feign sympathy. It must be so hard for you, Mark, having to do everything on your own. Fueled by his own guilt and illusions of grandeur, Mark allowed Ashley's manipulations to take hold. In a moment of weakness, or perhaps infatuation, Mark granted Ashley limited access to his bank accounts. She pointed out questionable expenses that Jade had made in the last month: baby supplies, prenatal yoga classes, a donation Jade gave to a friend's charity. Ashley framed these as unnecessary or wasteful, skillfully ignoring the fact that Mark's fortune could easily accommodate these expenses. At dinner one night, Ashley leaned in close, her voice sultry. If Jade is running around spending your money without even acknowledging how hard you work, you need to put your foot down. Show her you're in control, or she'll keep taking advantage of you. Mark, his pride piqued and his judgment clouded, took Ashley's words to heart. The next morning, in a hasty fit of perceived indignation, Mark called his financial advisor and, with Ashley smirking at his side, commanded them to suspend Jade's credit cards. He rationalized it as a wake-up call, a lesson to Jade for not being supportive enough. He had no idea of the heartbreak this decision would sow. It happened on a routine trip to the supermarket. Jade, feeling the baby's frequent kicks, waddled her way through the aisles, carefully selecting fresh produce, baby-safe cleaning supplies, and some prenatal vitamins. She thought nothing of it as she approached the register. When the cashier rang up her items, Jade swiped her credit card. Declined. Confused, Jade tried again, sure it was a glitch. Again, declined. Her face burned with embarrassment as the people behind her in line grew restless. Apologizing profusely, Jade used another card. Declined. Panic clutched her chest. She had never encountered a payment issue in her marriage with Mark. Their finances were comfortably abundant, or so she believed. Flustered, she stepped aside, rummaging through her purse for cash. She couldn't find enough to cover the bill. Ultimately, Jade was forced to abandon half her groceries. She stammered an apology to the exasperated cashier, tears welling in her eyes as she felt humiliating stares from other shoppers. Hugging what items she could afford, Jade rushed out, heart pounding. Her immediate thought was that it must be some bank error. She drove to the local branch, only to be met with a polite but unhelpful explanation. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Bensington. Your husband revoked your access to these accounts and requested all cards in your name be cancelled." The bank manager gave her a sympathetic shrug. "You should speak with him directly." "We can't do anything on our end." Jade's head spun. She pressed a hand to her abdomen, calming the swirl of emotions that threatened to overwhelm her. Why would Mark do this? Had they run into some sudden financial crisis? Or was there another reason? Feeling dizzy, Jade rushed home. She tried calling Mark repeatedly. No answer. She left voicemails, her tone shifting from confusion to anger to desperation. She sank onto the sofa, tears glistening in her eyes, not knowing what to do next. When Mark finally returned her call, he sounded distant, even annoyed. "It's just temporary," he said, his voice cool. "We're restructuring finances. You've been spending too much, Jade." Jade inhaled sharply, reeling from the accusation. "Spending too much? Mark, I'm pregnant. These are baby items and groceries, not a shopping spree in Paris." He let out a condescending sigh. "Look, it's my money, Jade. We need boundaries. I told you, business is changing. My ambitions are growing. We can't just throw money around." Her heart thumped. She wanted to scream. You can afford 1,000 times more than what I'm spending. So why are you doing this? But she sensed it wouldn't matter. Something had changed in Mark. He was unrecognizable. With a bitter laugh, Jade choked on her tears. This isn't a marriage anymore, Mark. I don't even know what it is. She heard only silence on the other end. Then the line went dead. Desperate for an explanation, Jade dropped by Mark's office the next day. She wore a simple maternity dress, hoping she could appeal to Mark's conscience. She had memorized a speech, carefully planned to avoid confrontation and focus on facts. Yet, upon arriving, she was told by the receptionist that Mark was in a closed meeting with the new marketing consultants, and yes, Ashley Carmichael was among them. Jade waited in the lobby for hours. By the time Mark emerged, Ashley by his side, Jade was physically and emotionally exhausted. Ashley smiled politely at Jade, though her eyes gleamed with triumph. She extended a hand as though they were casual acquaintances. Jade refused the handshake, turning to Mark, searching his gaze for any sign of remorse. She found none. "Mark, a word?" Jade asked, her voice trembling. Ashley sauntered away, arms crossed, leaning against a wall but within earshot. Mark nodded curtly. They stepped to the side of the lobby, near a marble pillar. Jade tried to keep her composure. "Why? Why did you cut me off without warning? How could you do that while I'm pregnant with our child?" He exhaled, rolling his eyes in frustration. "I told you. We're restructuring finances. And we need to talk about your spending habits. I'm in the process of building a brand new business empire, Jade. I need the resources directed there." Jade's eyes flared. "I've never abused your money. I'm still working on philanthropic projects, volunteering my time, preparing for the baby." "I don't even," he cut her off. "It's not just about you, Jade. It's about the bigger picture. You're not part of my day-to-day business decisions anymore. You haven't been for a while. I need people around me who can keep up. People like Ashley." Jade snapped, tears threatening to spill. She forced herself to remain steady, refusing to let him see her crumble. Mark's jaw tightened, but he didn't outright deny it. Silence fell. In that moment, Jade realized the extent of his betrayal. She looked over his shoulder at Ashley, who hovered with a smug smirk playing on her lips. "Well," Jade said, her voice trembling with heartbreak, "I see where I stand." She turned to leave, not wanting to shed tears in front of Ashley. But Mark's next words froze her. "I need the house too, Jade. If you're not going to support my direction, then maybe you should find someplace else to stay." Jade turned back, stunned beyond words. "Are you kicking me out of our home?" "It's my home," Mark corrected coldly, "and I won't have you interfering with my plans. Of course, if you accept the new financial plan, we can negotiate something for your living arrangements." Ashley, thoroughly enjoying the scene, gave Jade a condescending look. "It's better to keep personal matters away from the office," she said, stepping closer to Mark. "We have a big business pitch to prepare for." Jade felt nausea roiling in her stomach. She saw a man she no longer recognized, and a woman who was systematically dismantling her entire life. Clinging to the last shred of dignity she had, Jade managed to utter, "I'd rather leave than stay in a house where I'm treated like I'm nothing." She turned and walked away, tears streaming down her cheeks, ignoring Mark's last attempt at reasserting control. As Jade exited the building, she knew she was stepping into an uncertain future, one in which her husband, the father of her unborn child, had become a stranger. Jade took the only course of action she could think of. She drove to Catherine's apartment. Catherine opened the door to find her friend in tears, a few belongings hastily shoved into a small suitcase. "Catherine," Jade began, her voice shaky, I think I need a place to stay for a while." Catherine immediately pulled Jade into a comforting hug, guiding her inside. Once Jade had calmed enough to speak, she recounted Mark's actions, the cancelled credit cards, his coldness, and his implicit request for her to leave his mansion. Catherine listened, her heart breaking for her friend. "You can stay as long as you need," Catherine said firmly. "Don't worry about anything. My home is your home." Jade felt a wave of gratitude. She spent the night on Catherine's sofa, restlessly reliving every moment of her confrontation with Mark. A swirl of questions haunted her. How did they get to this point? How could he be so heartless when she was pregnant with his child? Did their years together mean nothing? By morning, Jade felt a new resolve. She might have lost her home, her access to funds, and her pride, but she still had something important: hope for her unborn child. With Catherine's help, she planned to contact a lawyer. Regardless of Mark's cruelty, Jade had rights, and the baby had rights too. She wouldn't let Mark or Ashley steal that away. Yet, the path ahead was fraught with challenges. Mark's legal team was formidable, and Jade suspected Ashley would do everything in her power to block Jade from receiving any substantial settlement. Although Jade needed financial security for her baby, she also wanted emotional closure. She needed to disentangle herself from this nightmare, to find a way to rebuild a life that wasn't overshadowed by Mark's betrayal. In the weeks that followed, Jade found a pro bono legal service. She applied for a modest job at a local non-profit that valued her volunteer experience. It wasn't a glamorous position, but it offered a small income. Catherine loaned Jade enough money to pay for her prenatal care, ensuring the baby remained healthy. Though Jade struggled, she clung to her dignity, determined to carve out a safe space for her child to be born. While it stung that the man she once adored was nowhere to be found, Jade realized she had a choice: to wallow in anger, or to stand strong and shape a brighter tomorrow for her baby. She chose the latter. Meanwhile, Ashley was thrilled with her victory. She had effectively pushed Jade out. Her control over Mark grew as she maneuvered to become indispensable in both his business and personal life. She attended board meetings as Mark's consultant, traveled with him to pitch investors, and even accompanied him to a series of social functions previously reserved for Jade. Yet, Ashley soon discovered that even as she gained power, she also inherited Jade's responsibilities. Suddenly, Mark expected Ashley to run errands, manage aspects of his personal schedule, and, in a twist of irony, handle some philanthropic efforts that Jade had previously overseen. Ashley found herself struggling to juggle it all, especially as she realized Mark's drive could be ruthless and unrelenting. Moreover, Ashley felt a nagging anxiety. She had forced Mark to sever Jade's financial safety net, but the legal ramifications were still looming. Jade hadn't quietly disappeared. In fact, Jade's lawyer had begun sending letters requesting Mark's financial statements, clarifying Jade's legal rights. Ashley sensed this wouldn't be resolved easily. There were other problems too. Mark showed early signs of being controlling, something Jade had previously tempered with her warmth and kindness. Now that Jade was gone, Mark's controlling tendencies intensified. He kept tabs on Ashley's phone, questioned her expenses, and demanded constant updates on the marketing strategies. She pitched to him. One night, as they lounged in Mark's suite at a luxury hotel, Ashley glimpsed a side of Mark that unsettled her. He grabbed her phone to check who had texted her, scowling if it was any male colleague. "You're mine now," he said, half joking but with an edge to his voice. A part of Ashley began to wonder if she had made a deal with the devil. She reminded herself that her ultimate goal was wealth, power, and status, and she had them. But at what cost? Weeks turned into months, and Jade's pregnancy advanced. Catherine insisted she focus on self-care. Meanwhile, Jade's lawyer, Denise Holloway, proved to be a fierce advocate. Denise, a seasoned attorney in family law, saw the cruelty of Mark's sudden financial cut-off and took the case personally. She filed motions demanding temporary spousal support on behalf of Jade, citing the unborn child's immediate needs. Mark, spurred on by Ashley, refused any settlement, claiming Jade was trying to extort him. The tension escalated until a preliminary hearing was set to determine whether Jade was entitled to financial assistance before the baby was born. On the day of the hearing, Jade walked into the courthouse feeling anxious. She wore a simple, neat outfit, her belly clearly visible. Mark appeared in an expensive suit, flanked by a squadron of attorneys, and Ashley Carmichael, who took a seat in the gallery, observing with a cold gaze. Denise laid out the facts. Jade was pregnant. Mark had cut off all financial support, and Jade had been forced to leave their marital home. She argued that not only was Mark's behavior morally reprehensible, but legally, Jade was entitled to assistance and property rights. Mark's attorneys countered that Jade had voluntarily left and that Mark had suspended her credit cards due to frivolous spending. Frustration knotted in Jade's chest as she listened to the lies. She felt anger simmer at the back of her throat when Mark's lawyers accused her of poor money management. Yet, she held her head high. When the judge finally spoke, the tension in the courtroom was palpable. Given the evidence, the judge said, "I see no reason to deny the mother of Mr. Bensington's unborn child temporary spousal and child support until a final arrangement can be made. This is to ensure medical bills, living expenses, and prenatal care are covered." A flicker of triumph danced in Jade's eyes, mirrored in Denise's satisfied nod. Ashley scowled from the sidelines, while Mark's face twisted with irritation. The judge continued, "Furthermore, this court expects both parties to conduct themselves in good faith. Any further attempts to withhold rightful funds may lead to sanctions." Afterward, Mark stormed out, not bothering to acknowledge Jade. Ashley followed, throwing Jade a withering glare. But Jade felt a swell of relief. Though the legal battle was far from over, she had won a small but crucial victory. She could finally breathe a little easier about her baby's immediate future. The pressure weighed on Mark. He was hemorrhaging money into various expansions that Ashley had promised would reap enormous returns. But so far, the results were lukewarm. Investors grew cautious. News of Mark's personal scandal, abandoning a pregnant wife, slowly trickled through social circles. Deals began to stall. Meanwhile, Ashley clamored for attention and control, complaining she couldn't do her job properly unless Mark gave her even more authority. One evening, Mark reviewed the financial statements Ashley presented. Red flags popped up, suspicious charges, inflated consultant fees, marketing expenditures that lacked tangible results. He realized Ashley had been funneling money into her personal side ventures unrelated to Mark's business. She had pitched grandiose concepts that had no direct path to profitability. In essence, Ashley was using Mark's resources for her own gain. When Mark confronted her, Ashley switched tactics. She wrapped her arms around him, murmuring in a sultry voice, "You've been so busy with your expansions, darling. I tried to manage things the best I could. Perhaps we had some oversight. Let's fix it together." For a moment, Mark's anger subsided. He didn't want to admit he'd been played. Part of him wanted to believe Ashley had good intentions. But the seed of doubt grew. She had, after all, skillfully convinced him to push Jade out of his life. If Ashley was capable of that, what else might she do? Ashley sensed his diminishing trust. In a desperate bid to keep her power, she doubled down. She organized a private meeting with a wealthy investor, promising Mark it could save his struggling expansions. But when Mark arrived, he found the investor underwhelmed, concerned about Mark's personal scandals, and ready to pull out of the deal. Ashley had oversold Mark's brand, conflating illusions of grandeur with real business potential. As Mark watched his empire teeter, Jade's name flashed through his mind. She had always been the calm voice of reason, the moral compass. If Jade had still been by his side, would he have steered his company in a more stable direction? But Mark was too proud to ask for help, too entangled in his affair. He had burned the bridge with Jade, fueling her heartbreak, humiliating her publicly. Even if he recognized his mistakes, it seemed too late to rectify them now. Meanwhile, Jade's spirit blossomed in unexpected ways. Freed from Mark's controlling orbit, she discovered her own resilience. She flourished at the non-profit, spearheading a fundraising campaign that brought in vital donations. She rediscovered her intellect and compassion, traits that made her an asset in any team. Her pregnancy progressed, and though she experienced the usual discomforts, swollen feet, back pain, insomnia, she also felt a glowing pride. Each flutter of the baby's kick reminded her that she was forging a new life, a reason to keep fighting. Catherine witnessed Jade's transformation with awe. "You're stronger than I've ever seen you," she told Jade one evening, as they sat on Catherine's balcony, sipping tea under the stars. Jade smiled, her hand resting on her belly. "I had no idea I had this strength. It's weird, I hate what Mark did to me, but if this is what it took to find myself, maybe there's a silver lining." The biggest step came when Jade found a small, affordable apartment near the non-profit office. With her spousal support and her modest paycheck, she managed to furnish it with simple items. It wasn't a mansion, but it was hers, a home for her and her baby. Her lawyer, Denise, continued to press for a final settlement or divorce arrangement. Mark dragged his feet. He tried to bully Jade legally by claiming that she didn't deserve half of his fortune. But in the eyes of the law, especially with an unborn child involved, Jade had every right to pursue a fair division. Jade felt anxious about the outcome, but she told herself that no matter what the final arrangement, she would continue to rely on her own strength. She refused to let Mark's betrayal define her or her child's future. As Mark's business struggles intensified, Ashley grew desperate. She realized that if Mark's empire crumbled, her path to wealth and power would vanish too. In an impulsive gamble, Ashley convinced Mark to host a massive investor gala at the mansion. The aim was to restore confidence in Mark's brand and hush the rumors about his personal life. Invitations were sent. Anyone with money or influence was expected to attend. Mark grudgingly went along, hoping to salvage some portion of his failing expansions. Ashley, in a shimmering gold gown, orchestrated every detail: the catering, the floral arrangements, the music. She privately believed that if she could dazzle potential investors enough, Mark might remain enthralled by her. Jade heard about the gala through Catherine, who overheard it from a mutual acquaintance. Initially, Jade had no desire to crash Mark's event, but Catherine insisted, "You should make an appearance. Show everyone you're not vanishing into obscurity." Denise, Jade's lawyer, also recommended it. If Mark's so public about parading his new partner while ignoring his pregnant wife, that could reinforce your case in court. It proves you deserve rightful compensation. Plus, it's a chance to show you haven't fallen apart under his cruelty. So Jade steeled herself. On the night of the gala, she donned a simple but elegant maternity dress. Catherine accompanied her for moral support. They arrived at the mansion's entrance, where paparazzi flashed cameras, capturing Jade's appearance in wide-eyed shock. The pregnant wife had returned. Inside, hushed whispers spread across the crowd. Ashley, who had been schmoozing a group of wealthy investors, spotted Jade and nearly dropped her champagne flute. She hurried to Mark's side, who stood near the grand staircase, greeting guests. When Mark laid eyes on Jade's pregnant belly and all his expression hardened, a mixture of anger and something akin to regret. Jade walked in gracefully, refusing to look away. Heads turned as people compared Ashley's bold presence in gold to Jade's dignified bearing. Catherine led Jade to a corner where Christopher Gates, a longtime philanthropic partner, greeted her warmly. "It's wonderful to see you, Jade," Christopher said, his tone dripping with compassion. "I've heard rumors. I hope you're doing well." Jade managed a tight smile. "I'm doing better now, thank you." Across the room, Ashley and Mark exchanged harsh whispers. "Why is she here?" Ashley hissed. Mark clenched his jaw. "Maybe she wants to make a scene. Just ignore her." But Jade had no intention of causing a ruckus until she saw Ashley deliberately taunting her. Ashley strode up, a venomous smile on her face. "Nice dress. Surprised you managed to afford it." Jade stared back, refusing to yield. "I'm entitled to be here as Mark's wife, whether you like it or not." Ashley let out a short laugh. "You're not his wife in any meaningful sense. You walked out." "You left him," Jade interrupted, voice quivering with fury. "You manipulated him, and he fell for it. But don't you dare pretend you know anything about our marriage." Their exchange drew curious stares from onlookers, including Mark. Sensing a confrontation was brewing, he joined them. He glared at Jade. "Why did you come here?" Jade's eyes flashed. "Because I'm not hiding anymore, and because I have every right to be here as the mother of your child. This is still our mansion after all." Ashley scoffed, shooting Mark a meaningful look. Mark took a deep breath, as if warring with himself. "Look," he told Jade in a low voice, "if you're here to cause trouble, just leave. This night is important." Jade fought tears. "I'm not the one causing trouble, Mark. I'm just reminding you that you can't erase me from your life as if I never existed." Ashley grabbed Mark's arm, trying to pull him away. But several of the investors parted, forming an awkward circle around them, intrigued by the tension. Catherine stepped forward, prepared to defend Jade if necessary. That's when the bombshell fell. One of Mark's disgruntled investors, Alan Caldwell, stepped into the circle. "I've just learned you've run through millions of dollars on worthless expansions," Caldwell snapped at Mark, brandishing documents. "You said your wife was on board, but from what I see, you forced her out. Now you can't deliver on your promises. Did you think we'd keep pouring money into a sinking ship?" The hush that fell was deafening. Ashley paled, knowing that her illusions were unraveling in public. Mark stammered, "Now, wait a minute. This is a misunderstanding," but Caldwell didn't relent. "I'm withdrawing my investment. And I know several others who are about to do the same." He cast a withering look at Ashley. "You two made a fool of us." The chaotic confrontation escalated. Other investors voiced similar concerns. Ashley tried to spin an explanation, but no one listened. As the tension soared, Jade felt a wave of relief and sadness simultaneously. She never wanted Mark to fail, but he'd orchestrated his own downfall through betrayal and deceit. Mark, cornered, lashed out at Ashley. "You said these expansions were rock solid. Now you're telling me we have no guarantees? That my entire empire is in jeopardy?" His fury was palpable. Ashley realized she was dangerously close to losing everything. "Don't blame me," she hissed back. "You're the one who signed off on everything, too blind to see." Before she could finish, Mark barked, "Get out! Just get out!" Ashley recoiled, humiliated, tears welling in her eyes. Jade watched from the sidelines, her emotions tangled. She had never envisioned seeing Mark so defeated, nor had she ever wanted him to lose his empire. But as the meltdown progressed, Jade recognized the bitter truth. Mark had reaped what he sowed. In the aftermath of the gala, Mark's empire quaked. Some deals collapsed outright. Others hung by a thread. Ashley, desperate to salvage her own ambitions, tried to contact Mark repeatedly, but he ignored her calls. The carefully woven relationship between them disintegrated, leaving Ashley alone with her regrets. Mark retreated to his mansion, shutting out the world. With the baby's due date looming, Jade waited for any sign that Mark would step up, apologize, or show paternal concern. Instead, she only received communication through lawyers. She felt heartbreak for her child, who deserved a father's love, but Jade also realized she couldn't force Mark to be a father if he was unwilling. She had a life to live, a child to protect, and a sense of self-worth to maintain. So she gave Mark one final chance, an invitation to meet at a neutral location and discuss a co-parenting plan. To her surprise, Mark agreed. They met in a quiet conference room at Denise's law office, both represented by counsel. Mark looked worn, dark shadows under his eyes. Jade noticed his hands shaking slightly as he sipped water. She wanted to feel pity, but she reminded herself of the cruelty he had shown when he cancelled her credit cards, left her homeless, and humiliated her. "We're here to settle custody and support," Denise said calmly. "Jade's due in a few weeks. We need clarity for the sake of their child." Mark nodded, clearing his throat. "I acknowledge Jade needs support," he said, his tone subdued. "I'm prepared to offer a settlement, monthly payments, whatever the law requires." Jade's eyes flickered with a hint of sadness. Once, Mark had promised her the world. Now they were reduced to negotiating terms as if they were strangers. "And what about visitation?" Jade asked, her voice tentative. Mark's gaze lowered to the table. I'll be there for the child. I realize I've made mistakes. I want to be a part of my son or daughter's life. But things can't go back to how they were." Jade nodded, tears pricking her eyes. "That's all I needed to know." They signed preliminary agreements. In that moment, Jade felt a strange catharsis. Mark's empire might recover one day, or it might not. Ashley was out of the picture. But Jade's path forward was clear. She had won a measure of respect for herself and secured her child's future. She no longer needed Mark's love or approval. She had her own strength and a supportive circle of people who truly cared about her well-being. A month later, Jade gave birth to a baby girl whom she named Rose. Holding Rose in her arms for the first time, Jade felt the weight of past sorrows lift away. Catherine stood by, beaming, tears of joy in her eyes. Mark arrived at the hospital the next day, subdued, anxious. He gingerly held Rose, an odd mixture of wonder and remorse flickering across his face. Jade let him spend a few quiet minutes with their daughter, hoping that even in the wake of all his mistakes, he might be a better father than he was a husband. In the weeks that followed, Jade settled into her new life. Late-night feedings, diaper changes, and the quiet miracle of motherhood filled her days. She had the support of Catherine, her lawyer, and a growing circle of friends who admired her resilience. The final legal settlement went through, granting Jade child support and enough funds to ensure Rose never lacked basic necessities. Mark attempted to rebuild his business with more caution this time, occasionally visiting Jade's apartment to see Rose. Their interactions were civil, if not warm. Each had accepted that their paths had diverged. As for Ashley Carmichael, she vanished from social circles, presumably moving on to a new target or new opportunity somewhere else. Though rumors trickled back that she had tried to latch onto another wealthy entrepreneur in a distant city, no one knew for sure. Her triumphant grasp over Mark's life was short-lived, ending in the same dramatic swirl in which it began. In the quiet of Jade's apartment, as the morning sun filtered through sheer curtains, Jade cradled Rose. She pressed a gentle kiss to her daughter's forehead, whispering, "We made it, little one." Her heart brimmed with gratitude for her second chance, a chance to redefine her life, free from the shackles of Mark's betrayal. She had walked out with nothing, but in the end, she gained everything that mattered: self-respect, independence, and a precious child whose future shone brighter each day. Thank you for journeying through this powerful story of love, betrayal, and resilience. Jade walked out of her marriage empty-handed, her credit cards cancelled, and her dignity in tatters, yet she fought her way toward hope. She rediscovered her strength, built a new life for herself, and welcomed her baby girl into a home filled with genuine love. In the end, the scales of justice balanced in unexpected ways, proving that integrity triumphs over greed and inner fortitude outshines even the darkest deception. If you found this story gripping, filled with the emotional upheavals, dramatic twists, and triumphs of a woman who refused to remain a victim, don't forget to show your support. Please like this video, share it with friends who love compelling real-life dramas, and subscribe to our channel for more stories that resonate, inspire, and remind us of our own capacity to rise above adversity. Thank you for watching.